Debaters are ready for that. Please.
May I say something? I just want to send that we, negative side, didn't want to criticize the convention because we agree that it's a very important document for children, for society globally. But we wanted to criticize politicians. We wanted to send that every child, every single child is important. We wanted to say that, not to criticize convention, just that.
Okay. Please.
You say that the policy isn't effective, but what is the alternative? You didn't offer us any alternative in that matter.
Well, our job is not to give alternative, but, well, I can say that alternative can be family in the first place. Because when we talk about young children, as lady said, they don't know what is written in this paper, maybe, or in that book, but they don't understand. But they do understand when we talk to them and explain them what their rights are. They know that they should go to school, that it's necessary for them. They know that they should eat every day, but they don't know what the convention is, and it's normal for them because they are too young.
Okay, Sabina, please.
It seems like there is a general consensus among the debaters as well as the audience that we shouldn't in any sense criticize the existing convention. However, I think that some important questions were raised by the negative side, arguing, for example, the cultural relativism as one of the obstacles to the implementation. However, my question to the affirmative side is, could that be a problem for the convention itself? What if the convention is too mild? If we have the special guests who claim that the convention recognizes the cultural differences, could that possibly be the problem? Because we know that certain cultures recognize things that shouldn't be recognized, such as female circumcision in Africa. If the convention recognizes that cultural practices should be protected, even if they're violating the children's rights, does this mean that the convention should be adopted in any case?
Affirmative.
Yeah, okay. May I? Yes, that means that it should be adopted because the CRC doesn't say how they should implement some actions. It just said actions should be implemented. We must have that kind of results. How are you going to implement that? That's your decision.
Yeah, but the question here is that it is against basically one of the principles in the convention, what she explained.
My basic question is, how do you respond to the question of cultural relativism where it is a clear obstacle to the protection of children's rights?
That's why we have the Manifesto of Children's Rights. And if some of the rights says do not harm a child, then that overturns those cultural differences in all aspects.
Okay, Your Excellency.
What is the point of the fine words of this or any other convention if there is no mechanism to implement it?
The point is to offer an example to those countries on how to protect children's rights. It is not an obligation. It is only a guide to those countries, in my opinion.
Erna.
Just to say, because now with this cultural relativism, we are going into a very dangerous area, I have to say, because convention does, to a degree, recognize the rights of countries, cultures, to continue having certain ways with children and ways of life. These are, of course, basic human rights, I would say, but in cases of situations in which there is a damage to health of the child, to psychological, emotional, moral well-being of the child, such as in the case of genital mutilation, convention is very much against this because the principles are really the protection, the provision and participation of children. So we cannot say that it allows for any sort of practice in relation to children. It's very strict when it comes to protection of children.
It's a clear question on this.
Exactly. What is also important to say, kind of in reply to His Excellency's question, is that this question how? It is true that each country has its own ways of kind of dealing with the convention, but it is also true that the convention itself really, and this is special about it, that it really gives also the response to how, to this question how, because it talks in education about the aims of education. It talks about the free and obligatory education and free access to education. So there are also answers on how to do this. The other question is that maybe countries or states are not ready or are not willing to implement this how.
Lack of will, okay. Is it the case in Bosnia?
Kada je u pitanju Bosna i Hercegovina, mislim da uvažavanje nekih osobenosti i kulture koja postoji u Bosni i Hercegovini jeste problem u odnosu na period iz kojeg je izašla Bosna i Hercegovina.
Ali 10 godina prije,
10 godina prije to nije bilo problem, sada jeste i u Bosni i Hercegovini kod implementacije ne samo ove konvencije, nego i drugih mi imamo dosta problema, ali mislim kada su u pitanju prava djece da imamo nešto manje problema s aspekta okvirnih generalnih prava, ali kad govorimo o pojedinačnim, kad je u pitanju obrazovanje, edukacija, znamo da imamo jako mnogo prava i da je to u stvari i problem veliki u Bosni i Hercegovini. Nemamo ni odgovarajuće zakone koji u stvari daju pravi odgovor na standarde koje utvrđuje konvencija. Ali Bosna i Hercegovina potpisnica, ratificirala, znači ona ima obavezu, sada ima obavezu i prema Evropi i ona će to morati ispuniti. Implementacija nije dobra, ali će morati ispuniti, znači donijeti odgovarajuće zakone za obrazovanje i spriječiti diskriminaciju žene po nacionalnom ili etičkom principu.
I'm just curious, just additional question to you. Somebody mentioned in this discussion one of the measures is funds, budgets. And is there any budget line in the state level for children's rights, for protection, for implementation of the convention?
Da, kad su u pitanju budžeti, to je jedno od generalnih pitanja koje Komitet za prava djeteta u Ženevi postavi Bosni i Hercegovini sada u maju kad je branila izvještaj o pravima djeteta. Mi jednostavno nismo mogli dati odgovor da li Bosna i Hercegovina identifikuje budžet za potrošnju za svako dijete, odnosno prema potrebama djece. Bosna i Hercegovina ima budžete na raznim nivoima koji su generalni okviri iz kojih ne možete vidjeti koliko je to novca za djecu. A kad govorite o državnom nivou, tih budžeta uopšte nema. Imamo jedan vrlo mali, minimalni budžet vijeća za djecu koji je smiješan uopšte kad govorite o državi. Ali
How many Audi cars you can buy with that money?
Recimo da je u pitanju, vjerovali ili ne, vijeće za djecu Bosne i Hercegovine ima samo 10.000 KM-ova u državnom budžetu i to uglavnom koristi za promociju aktivnosti vezane za praćenje implementaciju, ali sreća da imamo međunarodne partnere koji daju mnogo više novca kada je u pitanju promocija implementacija, pogotovo Konvencije o pravima djeteta. Ali je sigurno da se te stvari mijenjaju u odnosu na neka određena područja, to je sad malo široko da diskutujemo. Ima nekih pomaka, ali generalno nemamo politiku koja generalno pokriva oblast dječjih prava na državnom nivou.
Okay, thank you. UNICEF, okay, Sanja, and then I will ask UNICEF
I just
about
want
cooperation.
to say about that report which Bosnia and Herzegovina government sent to Committee for Children's Rights. I've read in that report that they've written that although Bosnia ratified convention, although they know that they must respect all children's rights, they couldn't do everything which is expected from them because of financial, I don't know, they didn't have enough money for all that things. So because of that, we wanted to say that politicians can't or shouldn't only worry about that.
Okay, UNICEF. Kerry or Erna. I just wanted to ask for the general cooperation with the state because UNICEF is one global institution, especially focused on this area. So,
yeah, I would say that UNICEF in Bosnia and Herzegovina does have an excellent cooperation with the Council for Children and is obviously since, I would say, 96, even in 93, was really the promoter of the Convention on the Rights of the Child and initiated these processes of reporting on the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and this will continue. Obviously, there are lots of challenges that Council for Children and so many other organizations working for children in Bosnia have, including budgets, including policies for children. However, we can say it's not enough, it is not, but I would say that quite a lot was done. This means policy level. It doesn't mean the practice, and it doesn't mean full realization of the rights of children. And I would say that in response to our negative group, it is true that there is lots of
there are economic reasons, but I would say that there are lots of political reasons and lots of discrimination on the ethnic, racial, and other basis.
Economical reasons, but we see at least how many cars and what kind of cars are used by our politicians. Anyway, okay, we are almost till the end of this, at least, part of the debate. We have last two speeches. We would like to hear some kind of summary, key clashes, key shots on this topic, and I'm pretty sure that Denis will start with exactly this. Please.
Yes, I have really an honor to conclude today's debate in the name of affirmative team. I must say that I'm little disappointed by the side of negative, because they didn't, during the first and second speech, they didn't do refutation on our arguments. So that means they didn't find a clear answer why we should not adopt the Convention of Children's Rights. The special position of a child in society, and the second argument, children cannot advocate themselves, and also many other points in the CRC are actually show us the need why we must adopt the CRC. Your argument, the huge difference between rights of the child in theory and practice, actually show us that we must have some actions. And how will you provide those actions? By forcing, if I may say like that, the governments to make those actions. And how will you force them? By obligate them. And how will you obligate them? By adopting the CRC in those countries. So your argument, your first argument, is actually the clear evidence why we must adopt the CRC. The second argument, the policy cannot ensure every single child. Please, can you give me an example of ideal plan? I don't think that ideal plan exists. So even the CRC cannot ensure every single child. Still, it's much better than the situation in the country, for example, Somalia, that didn't adopt the CRC. Can you imagine our country without CRC? With the situation in that period, in the moment when we don't have CRC, and the situation where we have CRC, would that first situation be better than the second? Of course not. It's much better when we have CRC. It's not 100% clear situation. It's not a situation when we have the respecting of children's rights, but still it's much better without CRC. I don't think that you quite good understand what is CRC. CRC is not actions. We could discuss in some another debate, are the actions, for example, of our country good or bad? I agree with that. But first, let's clear once and for all, CRC is not an action. It's obligation, it's a guide. How should one country, one government make an action for the society that lives in that country? So when we say we must adopt the policy, the policy must be adopted to promote global compliance with Convention of Children's Rights, then we say that we obligate the country to make actions. We are not discussing are those actions good or bad. I agree with you that we must have good actions, but first let's obligate them to do that, because, for example, in Somalia, they are not obligated to do anything. And when we say about USA, the people say that it's just a matter of time when the United States will adopt the Convention of Children's Rights. Thank you.
And one applause for the affirmative team. Okay, the last speech in this debate from the negative side, Sanya.
Thank you. I have the honor to close this debate by my speech, and I must say that I'm disappointed. Just to repeat that, when affirmative side said that this debate was about adopting convention. Well, it wasn't about adopting, it was about what policy should or shouldn't do. It is what is important here. And we said our arguments who are repeated more than once, I don't know, but I will repeat it again. There's a huge difference between child's rights in theory and in practice. And that's the fact. We wanted to assent that every child is important. So it's not important what is written in this paper or anywhere else. It's important what is done in practice. There's numerous countries in some fields. I can say that countries who ratified convention, they don't do their job well. I can say that, but I can say that some of them don't respect child's rights so much as they should respect. Like we said in Russia, for example, their laws are too rigorous for people who are underage and who are delinquents. Those young people are in prisons just like adults. And in Convention, we could read that it's not good, that it's not expected from countries who ratified Convention. Our second argument was that policy can't ensure every single child. That's what I was talking about. It's normal that policy can't think about every child in every country. Maybe in some countries it's good, it's considered, but in some other countries it's not the case. So I want to say that we didn't want to argue about Convention. We wanted to criticize politicians' policy, that they don't do their job well, not Convention. So thank you.
And applause for negative team. Okay, so we had a debate. As you know, policies should be adopted or not adopted to promote global compliance with the Convention of the Right of the Child. Two teams, two different maybe stories, something that you agreed upon. But what I would like to hear now is, in the end of this debate, is some general comment on the debate, maybe some mistakes from both sides.